Hello, good afternoon. We are going to have tea together. I'm Burville Matakia. Over my shoulder, you will see my tea is brewed. I have made raspberry and lemon. Hello, Ace. Have tea with me. I've got raspberry and lemon with a hint of rose petals. So that's what's in my pot. I'm probably going to have to take my earphones out, otherwise I'll break something. And I have my guinea pig mug, which has guinea pigs that look like Kachansky on. So, tea's up. Okay. Thank you, Ace. Thank you for the sub, you gloriously shiny thing. Oh my goodness! A year! A year! Happy anniversary! Okay, we are playing the Archipelago, which is a game about making people tea. I think it's mostly story-based, kind of visual novel-y, I think maybe a little bit puzzly, but predominantly it's making tea for different people, and the type of tea you make, how I understand it, the type of tea you make unlocks different kind of interactions with people and gives you different relationships with those people. But we will find out. We will find out exactly what it is. We're going to overlay. There it is. It looks nice and pixely, but not too pixely. This game auto-saves your progress at the start of each day. Every morning while you brew your tea, you stare out over the cliffs at the archipelago, squinting for signs of other lives across the gulfs. You were a child when the city split. When the city split, you were already an adult. I'll be an adult. You can still remember the heady honeyed smell of the kiln where your lover worked across town. Thank you for the sub, and thank you for saying hello. And I will see you on Instagram. It's where I see you most nowadays. Have fun. Early morning, stolen time on breaks, long walk and leafy sandwiches on the pier. Leafy sandwiches? I'm assuming they mean lettuce. Leafy sandwiches. You used to reminisce together in your letters, but they stopped coming about 10 years ago. You're pretty sure they found someone new. Different folks show up every day. Sometimes they bring something for you in return. I like food prepared from the vegetables in their garden, like bits of colourful fabric. Vegetable food. Veggie. But even if they come empty-handed, you don't really mind. You have more than enough to go around. Every night, through clouds and fogs, you watch the lanterns flicker to life over the next island over. You make up stories about how they spend their nights. But the stories always feel hazy and fanciful. Nights spent in a happy company, laughter echoing across the gulf. You have never heard anything from across the gulf. You clean up for the night and tuck yourself neatly into bed with a mantra. This is the way things are. The words calm you enough to let you sleep. Tonight, though, you can't sleep. There's a mighty storm outside, strong enough to snap a small island in two. Something catches your eye. Ooh! Parachute from nowhere. You can just barely spot the body flush against the cliff. It is still smouldering. Is it alive? You shimmy your raincoat over your head, light a lantern with quivering hands and throw the door open. Day 1, a new messenger. It's like a pastel version of Darkside Detective. You gaze out your kitchen window at the island, take a deep breath and begin preparing the tea for today. Which base note would you like? Does it tell me what things are? Green tea, spinach seed, a pear. Steam these leaves over my soaking tub out back. Steaming gives them fresher taste than my black tea. Okay, I do like green tea. Which mid note would you like? What's that? No. Oh, there's rose in the tea I've got. Oh, I have to choose one of them. Okay, we're choosing apple then. High note would you like? Jasmine. Mint. Orange. Not orange. If that was lemon, I would. Rose. There is a hint of rose in this tea. Green tea with apple. Green tea with apple. I think jasmine. I don't think apple and rose go together. For today's brew, you've prepared green tea with apple and jasmine. Only last night she was a charred mess under a mounting of a parachute. You barely managed to save her from the blue. But the messenger Lux slept only a few hours, and now, having borrowed an old crutch you fashioned for a sprained ankle, she is somehow back on her feet. You busy yourself with brewing your tea to stop yourself from staring. That smells good. Why do I have to stare at anything? Well, it's sort of, you catch sight of the scar when you're looking someone in the eye. Lightning-shaped scar runs down from her face along her arm, disappearing behind a shirt to her back. You've heard of people getting struck by lightning. It used to happen rather often on the airships, you've been told. But you've never seen it. How is she still standing? Do I look like that much of a mess? You avert your eyes. Oh well, I'm not dead at least, thanks to you. Are you sure this isn't too much to ask? Staying upstairs, I mean. I'm sure I can find an abandoned building to sleep in, and to repair my parachute, of course. She shifts on her leg, then winces. Gesture at the crutch. Alright, I'll stay until I've recovered a little bit. Maybe I'll even have some tea while I'm here. Wonder why she was flying at night. Wonder why she was flying off her scheduled route. Messengers only have one route they fly for years at a time. It's unheard of to fly to an island off your route. So why was she? Before you ask, and perhaps anticipating that you will ask, she points up the stairs behind you. I'm going to make myself scarce. Let you get back to it. I'll see you around. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Lux stops at the stairs for a moment, then turns on her good heel and sits down at the table. You wonder if the prospect of going up was too daunting, but if she's in pain, she hides it well. You pour her a cup and bring it to her seat before she can insist on coming to get it. You know it's Flavia at the door because the chime barely makes a sound as she glides in. Your island's messenger perches on her chair as if it is welcome but unnecessary. If she wanted, she could simply sit in mid-air and make do with leg muscles and willpower. A shadow passes over her face when she sees Lux across the room. She steadies herself almost instantly. Blink and you'll miss it, but her hands folded neatly on the table clench into fists. She gives you a curt nod as you set the tea down in front of her. Adelaide gestures at you as they pass by the window on their way in. To your delight, they've bought you breakfast, a fresh roll with pickled mushrooms and squash conserve. That sounds lovely! Pickled mushroom roll? With like a marrow or a courgette pickle thing? Pickled mushroom roll. Oh, I like you. You're my favourite already. It's still warm, which, along with the fact that they're slightly out of breath, tells you they must have run here to give it to you fresh. You pour their tea just as they come in, so they know that they are welcomed and appreciated. You settle in at your pace behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and then listen in on your guest conversations. 2 new messengers in 1 week. It's lucky time for our little island. Not sure me crash landing in a storm counts as you getting a new messenger, but you can count yourself lucky if you'd like. Oh, well, I do then. So where's your route usually? In the western corridor around the factories. The storm brought you that far? It would have brought me farther if it had its way. It was quite the fight. You look like you've gotten in a few fights. Do I? Oh no, I meant as in you're strong, like visibly. I see, then I accept your compliment. And what about you? My name's Adelaide, and before you ask, no, I haven't been in many fights. But I'd rather keep you talking than prattle on about myself. I grew up here, haven't been anywhere else. Rather boring, really. You'd be surprised how interesting islanders can be for a messenger. Really? Certainly, most of my colleagues are boring, and the others are frightening. I'll go so far as to say that volunteering for the messengers weeds out the worst people on each island. Sample size of 1, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. 2 compliments, how generous of you. Ha, yes, well, I guess all of the islands on the archipelago, this isn't a bad one to be stuck on. There's a lot of people for one. You can climb around in the old fabric mills and make yourself outfits from the scraps. My dad, his name's Mal, he has a big book collection and it's basically our library now, because he's happy to share whatever you want to read. There's even a little forest on the north end, though Cecily insists on calling it a park. Mal? Yes, that's my dad. Older guy, long red dreads, head in a book. Hard to miss. You don't look much like him. Sorry? Oh, I only mean, you don't seem the type to keep your nose in a book. Then again, you're not hard to miss either, so perhaps there is some family resemblance there. Ah, you think so? I guess we are alike in that way. You're not so hard to miss yourself. I suppose not. I'd like to rest now if that's all right. There's some things I need to think about. Of course, sorry to keep you. Anytime. So you're the new messenger? Oh, yes I am. You have big shoes to fill. We really warmed up to Merrick over the years. Thank you for informing me. I'm optimistic the island will extend me the same welcome. They're a welcoming bunch. That's good to hear. Yes. So that's it? Excuse me? My father refuses to talk about it, but I can read a room. You two know each other. There's something heavy between you. And I can see the resemblance too. Are you my mother? Adelaide, you know my name? I apologise, Adelaide. I can't get involved. I promised Mal that I'm sorry. Did I do something wrong? What are you doing here? Lovely to see you too, officer. Why are you here, Lux? I got caught in the storm, blown off course. As soon as I'm windworthy, I'll be back on my route. The storm started after dark. What were you doing flying at night? And what about your flare? You should have sent word first thing. I will not be interrogated. The whole room falls silent. Flavia says nothing. Please, officer, permit me a few days to recover from nearly falling into the abyss from being struck by lightning before I consult my handbook. All right. Thank you, officer. Or I suppose it's just Flavia now. Yes. Well, if you'd excuse me, Flavia. Lex pushes out of her chair with a grating creak and finds herself another table. Flavia, utterly still, watches her go. You finish your chores every day by pouring out the leftover tea onto the floors. Then you use it to wash them. I've not heard of that. I've not heard of that because tea stains. Mind you, your floor is yellow. Your floor's already yellow by the looks of it. Yeah, you don't want to clean things with your leftover tea. It's like trying to get your white laundry clean by using turmeric. It's not going to work. Okay, get on your hands and knees and scrub out the stresses of the day onto wood floors. You wipe them dry with a rag, then you sit down and take in the sunset. The room smells faintly of apple and jasmine. Today Lux watches you from in the rafters, but if she has any thoughts on your routine, she says nothing. Think about the storm. All that's left of the storm is the smell of petrichor and a light fog over the north end of the island. You wonder how the other islands make it out. You look over at the horizon, taking them all in one at a time. That's when it catches your eye. At first it looks like a fog, but the way it catches the light is different. It's darker and thicker, and it seems to bring the night with it. That's not fog, that's smoke. You look up at Lux, and you know she sees it too. So why doesn't she look surprised? By the time you get your lantern and your boots on, the sun has already sunk under the clouds. Mal is the only one you can think to turn to when he answers the door. His head is still in a book on a vertical gardening technique for rooftops. Didn't they say he had red dreads? They don't look red. But when he sees the look on your face, he snaps the book shut, grabs the quilted scarf from inside, and hurries out to come with you. Everyone on the island knows that Mal has the best eyes for the horizon. Only some know that he used to do this in the open sky. So when he climbs to your tree and leans out on the edge with his oculars, you don't question it. You know he won't lose his balance. Finally, he comes down and walks quietly to your balcony where he continues to watch. There's a look in his eyes you've never seen before. There's something about the way he is carrying himself. Every so often he takes his eyes out of his oculars and paces the length of the balcony. Ooh. Mal is not a jittery person. Mal is deliberate and precise. What has wound him up? Whatever it is, he turns to you and cuts off your thoughts. Look. He hands you the oculars. As soon as you press them against your face, Mal puts his hands over yours and gently angles them. Did you see it? You know what you're looking at almost instantly. The Messenger headquarters is the largest structure built after the split, and by far the tallest on the island. It's tall, jagged, flanked by mountains, and surrounded by docks for its inhabitants. And right now it's glowing bright orange. Fire. The Messengers have been part of your life ever since the split. They've existed before, but no one cared much about the mail until it was the only way they could talk to their loved ones across the gulfs. You keep all your old letters in a trunk beneath your bed. Every single one of them came in through that headquarters. The paper on which they are written was milled there. The ink that still shows no signs of fading, even after all this time, was processed there. You don't get as many letters as you used to. Some of your friends have probably passed away by now, others have simply moved on. But you still time your weeks around the Messenger's arrival. Your day still feels a little brighter when one of their letters is earmarked for you. If the mail stopped coming, even for just a month, you're afraid for yourself. You watch for the rest of the night as the smoke billows and the fire grows. You take turns with the oculars at first, but soon you no longer need them. You can see it with the naked eye. At some point Lux joins you and watches from near the door, leaning on her crutch. You speak only to draw each other's attention. To a small explosion, to an echo of a sound you can't quite decipher, to smoking remains floating off into the clouds. Finally dawn comes, but the fire rages on. With sunlight, others begin to gather near the edge of the cliff. You bring tea out to them to keep them warm, but there's no conversations to overhear. The island is utterly absorbed in what has happened. For a few days, no one leaves their house except to watch the flames. Things haven't felt so tense since the days after the split. For one frightening evening, the wind blows the smoke towards the island, blanketing everything with an orange fog. Then in the morning it's gone. Somehow you know people will return today and they will need tea. Day 2, the fire. Which bass note would you like? What's that? Oolong. White tea. Oh, there's fennel in that. Or I kind of want to do that. Mid note. Try the barley. Fennel and mint. They do go together. I have one of these is fennel and peppermint. The raspberry felt a bit more summery though. You prepare a brew of white tea with barley and mint. Mal has barely gone home since the fire started. He has busied himself with helping the others with their oculars and updating people on the condition of the headquarters. You overhear him telling someone that it is probably burned to the ground. He takes breaks in the cafe sometimes or out on the balcony. Once you catch him drifting off and set a blanket down next to him. This morning though, with the smell of the tea, he seems to come back to himself. He stares out on the balcony for a long time and takes in the clear sky. Finally, he comes back inside. It's pretty much gone, nothing but ashes left now. Someone needs to check on Flavia. A sad look passes over his face as he turns away. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Flavia has not slept since she learned of the fire. Her posture is steady and her footsteps graceful, but there are dark bags under her eyes and she can barely meet your gaze when she walks in. She downs the first cup you bring her in one gulp, which you take as a sign to bring her a second. Mal looks up and nods at you when you bring him his tea. For a moment he assesses you. When he's made sure you're okay, he produces another book from his bag. This one is about smoke, fire and flare powder, but he reads it with the same calm that you're used to from him. He has quelled whatever you sensed in him the other night. Llewellyn can hardly take his eyes off the horizon. There are barely anything to see anymore. The smoke is still too thick to see what's left of the messenger headquarters, but he still stands like a sentinel at the edge of the cliff each day. You're surprised he even made it in here. Despite the fear painted on his face, though, he still smiles and thanks you for the cup you bring to his table. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself in preparing some tea leaves for roasting, and listen in on your guests' conversations. Flavia? Hi, Mal. Are you alright? Mal, No, I won't talk to you about this. Not after so long. I'm sorry if I offended, Flavia. I just want to understand how you're feeling. I can't. Did you see him before you came here? Is he alright? Did he leave something to do with this? Mal, I can't. Flavia stands abruptly and excuses herself to another table. Ugh. Flavia, perfect. You're just the person I was hoping to see. Really? Yes, I want to know about the emergency procedures on the Messenger's Island. That person is huge in proportion to her. How would they evacuate in the event of a disaster? Where would they go? Did they have access to enough parachutes? Should we prepare for any survivors here, or perhaps first somehow send resources to a renewed headquarters down the road? Merrick Marlowe, did you know him? He was our old messenger here. Do you think he made it out okay? Or perhaps he was on a new route somewhere else. What do you think? Messer Walters, I apologise, I don't know. I have no idea. Are you sure? If you think back, maybe there's something we could do here to... I would prefer to be left alone. Oh, of course, my apologies. Hello, Llewellyn. I heard you were the first one to spot it. What exactly did you see? Very little, mostly smoke. What did it look like? I couldn't tell the colour too well in the light, but it was thick and moving quickly down towards the south end of the island. They built the headquarters on a mountain range. There's not a lot of vegetation. Maybe the mountains will halt the speed. I doubt it. How much paper do you think they stole on that island? To say nothing of the Grange dried good flare powder. Kerosene. Yes, kerosene. I can't fathom a more flammable place, to be honest. No, it would have gone up in minutes. I'm sorry, Llewellyn. No, thank you. This has been very informative. It's kind of sad for, like, it's essentially like a post office burning down. And it's like, you're going to have letters and cards and things. People's personal correspondence. You shut the door and anxiety bubbles up in your chest like a kettle on the flame. Did the fire really destroy the whole island? Were there any survivors? You didn't realise how much having company over was helping you. Now the questions rush to fill the silence. Does my lover remember me? Do they wish they had kept sending letters? You try to drown out the questions with your chores, but the effort is futile. Your work only reminds you of more things to worry about. How will I get new seeds for my tea garden? How will I share my tea recipes with the other? How will I get new seeds is the primary thing. Finally immobilised by the weight of the situation, you sit down at a table and hang your head in your hands, only to hear a knock at the door. I bought you some food. You let Adelaide in, their hands full with what sounds like a stack of lacquered wooden boxes wrapped in fabric. They set it down on the table, untie the fabric, and carefully lift the topmost box from the stack. They open the box to reveal an assortment of food that might feed you for a whole week. This being Adelaide, there are baked goods of all kinds. But there are sliced fruits and vegetables too, and what looks like some sort of curry carefully cordoned off into one side by a wall of kale. I wish I'd been able to get these out sooner, but it's taken me days to finish making it all. I had to scavenge a cauldron big enough for the curry for the old mill. I washed it out pretty good. Hopefully I didn't miss any rust or something. Look, I know you don't get letters very often, but you must have had a lot of friends on the archipelago. I can't imagine what it must have been like to lose them in the split, and now to lose them again. I just hope you're taking care of yourself. Adelaide repacks the rest of their boxes. You pour them a flagon full of today's leftover tea and make sure it sits safely on their shoulder. As they turn to leave, you see a flicker of recognition in their eyes. You are on the same shift now, caring for others in the only way you know how. This time, after they leave, the questions don't come back. You tear a piece of braided bread in half and dip it in the curry. The food makes you feel pleasantly drowsy. You haven't slept well since the fire. You decide to leave the rest of your chores undone. Perhaps you'll close the cafe tomorrow. You put away what's left of the box and head up to bed. As soon as your head hits the pillow, you drift off to sleep. The windy season comes in and fills the air with pollen from the poplars across the Gulf. A few weeks have passed since the messenger headquarters burnt down. No one has landed on the island since then. No one is used to the silence. You often catch people pacing at the landing or staring out with their oculars across the gulfs. But it's not all bad. You didn't realise until they were gone that the tension the messengers brought to this place. You have listened to countless hushed conversations, whispers of smuggling, conspiracy theories, fears of parachutes on the horizon. Those have been silenced too, and their absence is serene. What's more, people have begun to speak more openly about what they've endured. They talk about messages lost in the mail, or peppered with black marks. They were always subjects you knew not to broach if you wanted your letter to get to its recipient. Oh, they had censorship. They were censoring people's letters. They list the technologies that were stamped out, their inventors blacklisted from the messaging service and effectively lost to their loved ones. They drew crude maps with memory and guesswork and count all the islands that no one has heard from. It feels like draining a wound you didn't know you had. All you could feel before was the itch of the infection, and now everything hurts. But it feels better too. And amidst all this, Adelaide comes in every week with a fresh box of food. Flavia comes around more often now too. Usually she just sits on the balcony where it's too windy these days to be comfortable for anyone else. Sometimes she comes to sit with you in the evenings and you sip tea together and talk about frivolous things. The weather, how the garden's tolerating the wind, Flavia's allergies from the pollen. One day after a long silence she leans back in her chair and stares out at the last dregs of sunset. What am I supposed to do now? Stay here with us. You open your mouth to speak, but Flavia stands up before you can. Without a word, she walks to the door, hands behind her back, and leaves. The next day, while you're picking up the leaves of your tea, you spot Flavia at the landing, airing out her parachute. What comes next? I wonder how many days there are in this story. I know. Let me just pour more tea for myself. Go. Okay. I wish the ingredients changed. You're working with the same thing every day. Oolong. Let's make an oolong. Oolong caramel. Oolong caramel and orange. Okay. You prepare a brew of oolong with caramel and orange peel. See, you needed to specify that. Orange peel is different to just orange. You needed to specify it was orange peel. Okay. Making tea is finally starting to feel normal again. Until now, it's been your port in the storm of the past few weeks, and the only way you knew how to help. Today, though, it's how it was before the fire, simply something you do every day. Because you enjoy it. And because it lets you listen in on what other people are talking about, of course. You take your place behind the bar. With your tea prepared, people start to come in and take their seats for the morning. Mal has been spending a lot of time on the cliffs lately. Today he has a windswept look about him. His jacket is a little tousled and his fingers seem pretty cold from the eagerness with which he warms them up on the tea. He has a book on flying machines. You've seen it before, but he's not hiding it anymore. Cecily hasn't looked so calm since she was a child. For a moment you feel a pang of guilt. You hadn't quite realised how much weight she'd been carrying, looking over her shoulder all the time. Now it's gone, she walks with a little spring in her step, up to the bar to get her tea, and as she takes it, she meets your gaze and holds it for a moment. Llewellyn has become restless in the absence of his research community. He was subscribed to just about every scientific journal in the archipelago and kept in correspondence with all the scientists who hated publishing too. He always came here after getting his letters for the week. He'd open them and spread them across the table, reading each insight and every discovery with intense focus. Now he has nothing to read but Mel's borrowed books and his own notes, which he does voraciously, but it's not the same. He takes his tea and flips aimlessly through a folio. You settle in at your place behind the bar, occupy yourself with preparing some tea leaves for roasting and listen in on your guests' conversations. I bet you're ready for some good news. Hello to you too, Cecily. Don't play coy with me. You're on the edge of your seat. Look at the smile. Okay, tell me. I have a sailcloth. What? How? Llewellyn called in a favour with the hemp farmers. Merrick delivered it for me before the fire. They couldn't get it as big as I wanted, but Edna and the kids found some scraps in one of the old mills, and with a little mending, the hemp farmers, they really took that risk for you? Why not? They've smuggled books to Llewellyn before, and they delivered. Smuggling books is one thing, aiding the construction of a flying machine is entirely different. Well, we all did what we had to. I guess I'll just have to thank them when I see them. I suppose you're right. Is everything okay? I thought you'd be happy about this news. Instead, you're worrying about faraway hemp farmers who probably have no idea that they were even helping with us. Do you want me to build this or not? Cecily, No, you're right. I'm sorry. Of course I don't want you to stop. If you get this machine off the ground, you could change everything. I want to be a part of that. I guess old habits die hard. Even though you're safe now, I still worry that you should keep your guard up. I understand. Sometimes I catch myself setting my traps or checking my lookouts, like I'm going to wake up to them pounding on my door. I feel like it's going to take a long time for that feeling to go away, but it will go away, right? Well, I hope so. In any case, if you have time this afternoon, I could use some help with the final schematics for the skeleton. Cecily produces a folio of papers from her bag. I'd love to. Oh, they look happy. They're happy with their project. Hello, Llewellyn. Mal. The fire is still bothering you? I can't get it out of my head. Did you ever have any fires on the Fairwind? Not ones that destroyed the ships, I mean, but when you were sailing. No, we did absolutely everything we could to avoid a fire. There would have been little hope for us if one had started. Airships are practically tinderboxes. Oh, I thought I'd find that more comforting. Perhaps they had some sort of emergency procedure. Maybe some people survived. Maybe. There was one time we almost fell out of the sky. Oh? It wasn't a fire though, it was a flock of geese. Geese! They tore right through our forward topsail. Everyone felt the jolt, then we started to sink in the air. Oh no! We knew if the hull even grazed the top layer of the clouds, we'd be too low to reach the docks and the ship would be lost. Any lower than that and we'd be lost with it. So what did you do? Well, first we unfurled all our sails. We hoped it would be enough to catch the updraft and buoy us back up. But of course it wasn't, so we had to fix the topsail. Fix it? How? Well, we didn't exactly have time to stitch it closed. So me and Emmerich and Cressida climbed up. Each of us grabbed at a hole, pulled the ends together and rolled it up like a cigar. Then we held it closed while the others steered. We all sat there wrapped around the sail, giving it this huge hug pretty much until we made it back to the dock. And the ship? She made it, barely. It took almost 30 of us to get her back onto the dock. The geese did just fine though. We found them on the cliffs when we pulled into port. Ha! I can't believe you were out there all the time. Weren't you terrified? I was too young to be terrified, but people survive all types of things, Llewellyn. Keep your eye out for survivors, but I'll try not to fixate on it. Alright. With the wind patterns in this area, I'd recommend heading west first. You get a gentle ride and all the way out to the donut. And then it's just a few short hops south along the concourse up to the scrapyards and back home. A perfect test ride. Is there any chance of unfavourable winds? What should I watch out for? Well, storms of course, cloud formations, wind speed, not too fast, but not too slow either. Keep an eye on the birds, they know the skies better than you. But you know all this already, Cecily, you've done the research. You're alright, thanks. In any case, the unmanned test will give you all the information you need. We can make a more detailed flight plan once we run them. Unmanned tests? Lou, I barely have the material for one machine. And with the messengers gone, there's no way to get more supplies. No, we've only got one shot at this. Please, Cecily, we don't need to make a whole machine. If you give me a miniature, I can fill it with flare powder. When it lands, the powder will explode. We'll watch for the flares, take measurements. How long will this take? No more than 2 months. How would you even produce flare powder? Can you even make it yourself with what you have here? No, I could make a little maybe, but not enough. I know this isn't how you would do things. No. But it's how you're going to do them, I know. Good. Just don't fault me for worrying about you, Cecily. If something happened to you while all I'm saying is there's reasons to be cautious. Oh. Of course, don't worry, Lou. I'll come back to you as soon as I can. As you do your chores this evening, you catch yourself asking questions again. What's going to happen to the island? What will happen to the archipelago? The immediate thing is where you are. You can't get off your island. So, before the split, this place used to be a fabric district. Hello, Remy. What are you eating? What are you eating, Mr. Remy? Are you enjoying your food? Good boy. Remy's having some vegetables. Before the split, this place used to be a fabric district. People here used to weave textiles from hemp and wool and angora. The dyes they made painted rainbows on the streets. Yay, pride! They would hang the yards of fabric out to dry in the sun. Some streets were so dense with fabric you had to push your way through. In the midst of the split, those arts were largely forgotten, as everyone hunkered down to survive and made something of a life with the people they had left. What will be forgotten now? What might we remember? What else might we do? The questions don't scare you, though. There will come a time when the island gathers and works out together how to answer them. Until then, you'll just have to imagine what might happen. The prospect of that used to scare you, but now you feel strong enough to give it a try. Why doesn't anyone swim? You look outside after finishing up your chores and spot Cecily up on the hill. She's bending over to hold some sort of massive contraption. It resembles a bird's wings in flight. Every so often she has to stop it from catching the wind and flying away. She kneels down for a moment, fidgets with something, and when she stands back up, she's strapped into her machine. She stands utterly still for a moment. Then she takes off in a run and leaps into the air. As the island prepares to decide what to do next, people come and go more frequently. You are so busy to keep up that sometimes you forget to make tea at all. Still, people come to just sit, and as usual, you catch snippets of conversations. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you join the airship crew? Were you escaping something on the city? Not exactly. My family were all weavers. That wasn't what I wanted, but it's not like I had to run away to take a different path. It seems silly now, but the city felt so small back then. I guess I just wanted the world to feel bigger. I've always been afraid of big open spaces. No wonder with your parents. Yes. I only mean, as a child I enjoyed it, but I wonder if I'd even liked the city as an adult. Maybe it would have been too big for me. Now there's a thought. All the children of the split ended up frightened of seeing more than a few hundred people. It's nicer than it sounds. You could spend the whole day walking and never get to a cliff. And people did so much more with their time than just garden and fix up their houses. Glass blowing, fabric dyeing, refilling the lanterns. You could try something new every day for a month. But you left. My trips never lasted more than a few weeks. Anyway, back then everyone liked to dream of the distant past. We theorised about older splits and other islands, poured through the libraries looking for clues. We thought things must have been so much better before. Is everyone so nostalgic like that? Some people are. Other people are mourning, which feels different. But maybe it's not. In retrospect, I wish I hadn't been. Oh? I spent all my time reminiscing. Now it's all I know how to do. Yes. It's all we did for 30 years, isn't it? And longer. It's like coming out of a fog now. Everything's too bright. Yeah. Here's hoping our eyes adjust. Lux has moved into an empty building across the garden. Adelaide has finally relaxed their baking schedule, and Flavia seems content on her own. You finally have the place to yourself again. You wipe the tables and floors and wash every cup until they're spotless. You fix yourself a meal and read a book by the light of your lantern. Finally, you sit at the window and look out at the lights on the other side of the gulf. Something catches your eye this time. One of the lights is moving a little bit. Then abruptly it stops. You open your oculars, squint into them, and focus in on the light. Through the dark and the fog, you can just make out the outline of another person looking back at you. Ooh! Congratulations on completing your first playthrough of the Archipelago. Play again and make different teas to experience new interactions and storylines. Ah! Okay. Okay.